Hello again, welcome back. Leigh Montaigue, the Evans, WTBA. DIMMAC, the Western View. This is the penultimate lesson. We've got just 2 more lessons for you, this one and the next one. Triple heater 17 is the point we're going to be covering in this lesson. Just basically right behind the jaw hinge. We'll get into that in a little while. Please look back at our previous lessons. This is an ongoing series of classes, so we're not going to repeat ourselves in things we've already covered in the previous lessons. So where you might think there wasn't much detail in that particular technique, it's because we've already covered those details in the previous lessons, so please have a look at those. And please keep in mind that any of these DIMMAC lessons, they should be trained with extreme caution. Never hit any of these points in your training. They should only ever be trained to the point of boom, just there. Never actually impact with any of these very vulnerable points. So please train responsibly. Okay, so DIMMAC, the Western View, we're having a look at why DIMMAC points from China have an effect on the body from a Western medical point of view. So Leigh's a medical nurse and he's going to give an explanation as to the triple heater 17, which is just in behind the jaw notch in here. Take it away, Leigh.
Cool, thank you. Right, primarily, physiologically, any strike at an angle through the head will cause the head to tilt in this direction, and that's causing a fractured dislocation of the top of C1, or what's known as the atlas, where the head sits on top of the spine. So there's no muscles to stop this. So in the directions of hitting into triple warmer 17, you're actually sending a shockwave through the head this way, which can physiologically break the neck off the top of the spine. That's the nicest of the results of hitting to triple warmer 17. If I can just bring you across and turn you around a little bit. Just here, behind the ear, and literally posterior to the earlobe, in front of the mandibular bone here, or the back of the jaw there, you get 3 major nerves, well, 2 major nerves and 1 complementary nerve, coming out of the intercranial gap there. They run out of the same intercranial gap, and then they run down through the body. The first of them is the glazopharyngeal nerve, and that nerve comes out here, comes down a little bit, then goes in, and it feeds nerve impulses to the mouth, the throat most specifically, the tongue, the throat, the larynx and the pharynx. Now, if in Western medicine there's been a breakdown of the impulses or a heavy knockout of the person and they lose integrity of the larynx or the pharynx, then we get an occlusion of the airway, or the airway becomes blocked because there's nothing there to give integrity to hold the airway open. The first thing you'll notice is something called stridor breathing, or the person literally snores. When they've been knocked out, they snore. If ever you're training with your partners, they knock out, they start snoring, you seriously need to extend the airway, or they're going to die of lack of oxygen, basically. They're going to suffocate. And again, if you knock somebody out in the street, you hear them snoring, then it's very good for you if you put them in a recovery position and extend the airway. So the first part of the nerve point strike of triple warmer 17 attacks the glazopharyngeal nerve, which affects the integrity of the throat and starts the ability to breathe to break down because of occlusion and lack of integrity of everything that holds the throat open, basically. The accessory nerve is the second nerve, which runs in the same sheath. It's a myelin sheath, but I'm not going to go in and give you an in-depth anatomy and physiology class. But basically, just underneath the glazopharyngeal nerve, the accessory nerve and the vagus nerve are one. The modern view of neurology says that they are one until they branch off to come down in the same myelin sheath to this part of the neck here, hence the vagus nerve knockouts, or the nerve knockouts, which are done below the jaw hinge. In here, you get them both running in the same sheath, as I said, and striking to them. If we look at the accessory nerve first, although it is part of the vagus nerve there, we'll still have the accessory nerve effects, which takes away the integrity of the sternal-mastocoidal muscle, which is this big muscle that comes down here, and the trapezium muscle, which is this big, huge muscle which holds on your shoulder and holds your head up. So your head starts to do this. As well as we've occluded the airway now, we've started to shut down the airway with the glazopharyngeal nerve strike. So we've really compromised this head and body's ability to get air into the lungs and the nerve impulses which put air into the lung. But the most important, or if that isn't enough, the most important is the vagus nerve, which comes out of the same intercranial gap here and runs down through the whole body, runs right down through the whole body. Now, vagus means wandering in Latin, and it is the wandering nerve, because here it's quite easy, as regards anatomy and physiology, to trace it. On its way down here, it carries the parasympathetic nerve impulses to tell the heart to breathe, the heart to beat, and adequate respiratory function. I won't go into detail as to what the vagus nerve does as regards respiration, but it doesn't tell the lungs to breathe, but it inhibits the ability of us to breathe so deeply we burst our lungs. So striking up here to the vagus and accessory nerve is predominantly going to affect the heart, and it's going to affect the ability to breathe adequately or breathe well. Its effect on the heart, hyperstimulation of the vagus or the wandering nerve. Wandering, actually, because it comes down here, it actually joins with the sympathetic nerve responses down here as well. So you're affecting the overall body's ability to function properly, really, by attacking the vagus nerve. But if we just look at what it's doing in this portion of the body, here, hyperstimulation of the vagus nerve causes bradycardia, or a slow heart rate, also known as a bradyarrhythmia, because it's not a correct rhythm, it's too slow for what it's trying to achieve. So this causes a shock response to the body. The glazopharyngeal nerve also carries some of the nerve impulses from the carotid artery, or the carotid sinus, to the cardiac inhibitory center at the front of the brain, so we get a further reduction of the heart rate and a further reduction of the blood pressure in the body. So we've really minimalized the blood pressure. This then is going to tell the respiratory center, I need more oxygen to my brain and to my internal organs. So that's going to start telling the lungs to breathe. So then we get a tachyapnea, which is a very, very fast way of breathing, which isn't adequate. It's this sort of breathing starts to happen. When that starts to happen, because you're not adequately filling the lungs, the heart is the signals to the respiratory center are saying breathe faster. The signals from the cardiac inhibitory center are going slow down. So you're breathing faster and the heart is slowing down. Eventually this will end up in cardiac arrest or a nervous shock cardiac arrest. There you go. How's that?
Whoa!
that's a big yeah.
This is what we call the death of all death points.
Absolutely. This is a point
to 17.
It's absolute point of no return. If you get no return, seriously, it's a point of no return. Incidentally, I didn't just do my own research on this. I got in touch with a friend who is a neurosurgeon, and he sent me back a lot of information. And as far as he's concerned, this is the worst place as regards the nerves that you could possibly hit a human body. There you go.
All right. So now on to accessing it, using it in a martial situation. So that's all the knowledge base on why it does what it does, how it does what it does. But that kind of what? This is street cleaner. I hope you can hear us. There's a street cleaner coming past the dojo. It's a directional mic. It should be fine.
Yeah, good.
What was I saying? Yes. Okay. So when we're looking at it from a martial point of view, as we've been explaining through all of these lessons, of course, knowing where a point is, knowing what a point does, that's not going to help you in a fight at all. You have to know, your body has to know how to access it. Your reflexes have to know how to access it. You can't use a conscious decision, oh, this guy's about to attack me, Eli said that point was really good on triple heater, oh, it's there behind us. You can't use those kind of thoughts. You have to be a subconscious reflexive action. That's what DIMMAC training is all about. So we have to train ourselves, as we've been going through all of these classes, in different drills and training methods on putting the DIMMAC points subconsciously into your body. And this is why your DIMMAC training must be integral in everything you do. From my training from when I was a little child, when I was 4, training around with Dad, wrestling on the bed. He'd literally be wrestling, playing, just as a father and son does, but he'd always be going, Dad, look, hit me here, there, feel that, boom, and he'd pretend to get knocked out, because obviously I was only a child, I couldn't generate enough force, but I'd be like, hitting him on these points. But right from back then, he was training me on the specific points to hit. Okay, with reference to self-defense, triple heater 17, it's a tricky point because it's in the back. It's not as tricky as next lesson, which is going to be gallbladder 20, which is right in the back, but it's still behind the jaw. It's a little bit more difficult to get to, which is why we don't typically use it in general self-defense training. If you know nothing about, if you're not already a martial artist, you don't have the techniques and the skill to get around the back of the head, we don't typically use it. This is why, you know, everything Leigh's just said about all the vagus nerves and all the different nerves. I mean, stomach 9 is also a really nice shot anyway, but stomach 9 is an easy shot because it's right here. It's there in the front, it's not protected, bang, just hit it, bang. Same with the mind points that we've covered, temple shots that we've covered. Don't think we covered GB26, but that's another really nice one up underneath the nose, which is another one. CV14, it's all in the front. It's better for self-defense, for people who just need a bit of protection. They're not trained kung fu experts, they just need a bit of what's the best point I can hit when someone's trying to, you know, got me up against a wall or something, you're a woman or something like this. I'm not going to tell you to hit triple heater 17 because you need to be trained how to get to those points. So I'm going to give you a few simple techniques that will help you to understand where this point is. Keep in mind all the training that we've been doing throughout these lessons, all the different techniques, of course, can be used to any of the different points. Don't think like, oh, that technique can only be used for stomach 9 or this point or that point. As long as, obviously, you wouldn't use a direct punch like that to triple heater 17 because it has to come back the other way. So that's the exception there. Okay, so on to the actual techniques. Right, what one are we starting with? Okay, we're starting with the most simple of tactics. He's throwing a hook punch and boom! I'm coming around like this. Like that, right in there. Using a one knuckle, like that, or what's called a tiger paw fist. So I'm using not just the one knuckle, but any part here of these knuckles. But it's not the classic, these knuckles here that we usually use for punching. It's the top knuckles, there like that. But you're protruding them a little bit, you see? I'm putting them out. But I'm putting the one knuckle out even further. So I'm whipping the strike around, see? I'm not just driving it straight through. It's like you're throwing a hook punch, kind of like you're throwing a hook punch. A classic boxer's hook punch, except the boxer's hook punch will typically just come straight into the side of the jaw, bang. Which of course is a really good punch. It's a much safer punch. If it's like a, you know, a non-serious situation, just some idiot, you know, causing some trouble in the pub or something like that, you're much better off punching him on the chin because you, hopefully there's no guarantee. Any knockout can be fatal. Any fighting can be fatal. It doesn't matter what you do to take him out, bar maybe using an arm lock, but try using an arm lock on a huge big drunk guy in the pub. It's not going to work unless you hit him first. So anything can be dangerous, but this is safer than into the back of the triple heater point, as Leigh was just explaining. Effectively, when we hit this area, you're kind of causing all the same effects as what Leigh was just doing, explaining. So when you hit here, you're sending a shockwave and kinking the neck and affecting all those same points, but you're not affecting them directly by hitting the point directly, so it's a little bit safer. Also, when you're wearing a boxing glove, of course, for the tournament fights, if you hit in here, you're actually going to cause less effects because you don't get that notch. You see, that's the triple heater 17 point. The whole idea of it is this little notch in here. You don't want to just punch straight in because otherwise you're going to spread the power out all over here. You want it to just in there. You can use that punch, just a classic punch, a bit more difficult because you have to be around the back of him. So that's why we use the tiger paw punch, because you can actually be in the front of the body here, boom, but still hit it with a back towards you intention from the movement. So yeah, when you've got a boxing glove on, of course you're not going to get, the boxing glove's too big, so you're not going to be able to penetrate into that little crease of movement, in which case the actual jaw is the better shot. So what we're looking at with this one is, the big difference with this movement compared to the ones we've done before is we're evading and punching at the same time, okay? So as he throws that punch, boom, you see that? When my right foot touches the ground, my right hand hits his points there. I'm not going something like that, you see, evade and then strike. Just do it very slowly there. Oh, I can't really do it slowly, but as that foot hits the ground. The whole idea of this movement, this particular application is, now Leigh and I, as I've said before, are roughly the same size. These have been thicker than me, but I'm a bit taller, so we're probably about the same weight and so on. This particular movement is really, really nice when used against someone much bigger than yourself. I demonstrated this very nicely at my last camp when I had a big student there with me, Lars Erik, our chief instructor for Norway, so that he can show you the intention of... Sorry, Lars, can you come in? I need a bigger person. He's big, I don't want to stay here, you see. Even if I hit him, that's not nice, you see. So as he does that, that's where I'm going to be, you see. So he's keep on going. But that punch is going to clock him as he goes past. We'll have to just demonstrate because we've only got each other here. But if Leigh comes in, okay, if Leigh comes in with a hook punch now, I don't have to do anything. I can just stop that where I am, bang, just get a stomach 9 punch straight in the front, for example. We're too close for there to be any momentum. Neither of us can create momentum. You can create swing momentum, but when I say momentum, I mean body weight momentum, the physical force of a body coming forward. Now, even if Leigh comes at me, still in frame there?
Yeah, you're still there.
Even if Leigh comes at me from sort of this distance, so he's effectively, he's got to take a step in. So he's not just throwing a punch, he's got to step and punch, right? So as he comes in for that punch, now, because Leigh's not bigger than me, I don't feel threatened in the such that I feel like he's going to bowl me over. I feel like if I, for whatever reason, if there was a cliff there or something and I couldn't evade, I don't feel like I couldn't take him here, you see? I feel like I could deal with his amount of weight. But when you've got someone who weighs double what you weigh, right? You're talking, a 20, 25 stone, big guy. And you're looking up at him like this, and he's this wide. You can't stand toe to toe with him, particularly maybe if you're already this close, because he's now only got swing power, you see? So this is going to very much relate to his actual skill rather than his size. Because if you've got all this sort of body weight power coming in, doesn't matter if you've got no skill, if you're huge, you're going to develop a lot of power. But from a closer range, even if you're huge, you need to be very well trained to get any power. Doesn't matter how big your muscles are. So yeah, from there, you're not going to have to deal with momentum. From a step away, when someone's sort of charging in, and he's that big, even if you hit him, his body weight's still probably going to take you down because he doubles out your weight. So this is where you want to get by. You want to get out of the way of his movement. Okay, so he's back there, he's got to step into me and punch, and BAM! What we're trying to get here is not just an evasion of the punch, you see? I'm not just evading the punch itself. I'm evading his entire body, right? I call this the matador punch. He's coming through, come on, come on, come on.
Although matador's not a fair fight. There's no such thing as a fair fight, but that's really unfair.
Yeah.
Sorry. Vegan power.
Yeah. If you're unaware, so many of my friends, just a little side note, so many of my friends thinks that bullfighting is just the bull running around and, chasing around and running in the thing. They're like, what's the cruelty in that? I'm like, do you not know that they stick knives in it and swords in it? They shove a knife right in its back so that it can't lift its head. They spear it and they kill it in the end.
And they wind it up first, so it's not in a clear thinking bull state of mind when he gets into the ring.
Yeah. No bullfighting.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just we're vegans. So where were we? Okay, so we are completely like the matador. You've got to get out of the way because it's a bull coming towards you. You can't stand toe to toe with a bull and punch him on the head and expect it to do anything.
I'm a Taurian, sorry. I'm Taurian.
He's a Taurian. Okay. What was that guy's name? Karate guy. Supposedly chopped the horn off the bull.
Oh. That's a nonsense, but
yeah. What was his name? I'll find his name and put his name here so you can know his name. But anyway, utter garbage. No possible. He's supposed to be such an amazing, powerful. I think he was a karate guy that he could take out a bull and he apparently used his karate chop and dismembered the bull's horn. You watch the video footage and it's all like, oh, where is it? Oh, it's like, why did they film it like that? Why didn't they just film it toe to toe? It's clearly garbage, but so many people believe it because they want to believe it. Anyway, you can't take out a bull. So, when a bull comes at you, she's going, out of the way. Don't let it anywhere near you. As I say, this is why I say I'm not just getting out of the way of the fist, just this bit. I want to get away of everything. Because you might, I don't know, block that and then he's still going to bowl you over with whatever's coming through, because he's huge. So we're coming through there and boom! You're completely clearing him. If he keeps going, he's not going to touch any part of my body. Okay? This is what we want to look at. So the actual punch itself, the key points to this one is step and punch instantly at the same time. You must have no concept. If you step first, one of two things is going to happen. Either he's going to be gone before your punch comes through, right? Or he's going to have his guard up, for example. Or if you step too early, he's simply going to follow you. You've got to step at the last minute. Evasion doesn't like the matador. The matador, whoop, whoop, whoop. If the matador moves now and the bull's still charging, the bull's just going to turn and still hit him. So same principle. You've got to wait till the absolute last minute and let the bull go past. Okay. If you happen to need to dodge a bull, same principle. But if you don't have the thing, just wait, and then do your commando roll and out of there. No, commando roll under and punch him in the balls. See, when you see those big gonads come, that's your only defence against a bull. Right?
You've been watching military self-defence again, haven't you? Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, so, yeah, key points here. Step and punch instantly. Here, attack. BAM! See, you got your elbow. You did, you got it right. So, just do it very slowly. Whoa, you see? Foot and hand placed together. Bang! Straight in there. Your actual contact point is, as we've said, as a sort of rough guesstimation as to where to hit the point, just aim under the ear. Okay? As I say, with dim mak, you're never going to hit something like an acupuncturist. He's moving, you're moving, his head's moving. You're never going to hit a dim mak point specifically on the point. This is why, I think I've already said this is why we need power. Because you might, if you hit a point exactly on the point, then yes, you don't need that much power. However, if you're a little bit off, you need more power, okay, to cause the effect. So this is why we always try to hit with the maximum force, because why not? You always try to hit someone with the maximum force that you can generate, just to be safe. This is in a life or death situation we're talking about, of course, not a pub fight. Okay, so yeah, you basically aim just in here. You can see literally just in, I'll do a zoom up on this later on, I'll close up on it. There's the earlobe, under there's a little hollow, you can feel it in there. Where we actually want to hit is just a dip below that, in there, like that. I guess there's the tip of the jaw, the sort of, triangular point of the jaw. It's just in above that and straight in there. So that's kind of, you always give yourself a point, of course, even though you'll probably not hit it in a real situation. Give yourself a target, so you'll get as close to that point as possible, rather than going the opposite way and thinking, oh, well, you're never going to hit the point, so just hit him in the face. Well, then you're just going to bruise his cheekbone or something like that. And smash someone's cheekbone, they can still keep swinging at you and stuff. But do all that 10 minutes of talking, Leigh, you can't keep fighting if that's happening to your body. It's impossible.
And using that anatomical landmark and the direction of the strike, you're actually crushing the nerve between the striking weapon and the mandibular hinge, the mandibular process of the jaw. You're crushing it between bone and bone.
Yeah. So that's a good point, actually. Yeah. So you're not getting like Summing 9, for example. You're getting a sponginess. You're getting a hard bit, but a sponginess on the other side. This is you're getting it literally
crushed between.
Like you're taking it out.
Yeah. Boom.
Going like this.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, you're getting by hitting it in that direction, not only the crushing of the points and all that kind of stuff, but you're physically going to smash the jaw.
Yeah. You'll break the mandible, and because the mandible is called what we call in medicine a ring bone, it'll break on both sides as well. Well, it should. The percentage is huge. Most mandibular fracture dislocations will break on the other side as well, or just a mandibular fracture, it'll break both sides.
Okay, cool. And he's probably not going to want to fight you after that.
Yeah, he won't want to scrub.
The block we're using here is the same. We've used this several times already. Just cutting straight down the arm, bang, down like that. As I say, you're not going to get it exactly on, we're aiming for a pisiform strike, which we've covered before, straight down the neg1 point, which is pericardium channel, pericardium 6, just about here in the middle of the forearm, like that. But you might hit him up here, what just happened then when Leigh attacked me, I wasn't quite ready for it, and I caught him with my elbow straight through his fist. It still worked, busted up his hand, and he wasn't really throwing that full power. If that really hit, he probably would have broken his hand. So, as I say, in a real situation where you just throw the attack, boom, what's going to happen? No technique is ever going to be pulled off as you trained it in the dojo. But we train them so that something will happen that will work. This is a very safe kind of a block. Something's going to hit there that's going to stop me from getting hit. Okay, so the target point, what we're aiming to do is there. Cutting down the arm, we're not pushing up, it's definitely striking down the arm with this little knife edge pisiform bone here that we've covered before. Bang. And that's, of course, just by doing that, it pushes my right shoulder forward, boom, it pushes this out, and clock that in there. It's a Fajin strike, so I'm not punching through his body. With this kind it's boom, it's like that, which of course we'll explain once we get the mitts out, so I can show you how that actually works. But that's what I'm hitting in there. It's a shock fact that we're going in there. We're not trying to push in here and break the jaw. You probably still break the jaw, but you're not trying to sort of break the jaw and pull it over here. As long as it just fractures, that's all you need from it. That's the point we want there. So you're going in and out, like that. And of course, then you're set up, boom, straight up. You can come in here afterwards and carry on with whatever you want. As I've said earlier, of course, we're just covering singular points here in these lessons, and naturally you would follow on with several other techniques. We're just getting in that initial defense attack routine. Some points we'll be covering, we will be having a 1 and a 2, but this is all we've got for now. Okay, so I think that covers everything we need for that one. Evade on the strike, cut down the arm, whip the arm around. See how the arm comes in a circular manner, like that, you see? So that the point strike is going that way. It's not coming forward, it's coming around, and well, it's actually almost coming back towards you in a little, like there. That's where, or not quite back, well, obviously it's going to vary. Again, if his head was turned this way or that way, or if I turned here, you're going to have to vary it on the when you're doing the actual application. In this case right here, my power should be going sort of towards that punching bag, for example. Boom, through there, like that. Okay, right. Okay, so, alright, next technique, we're going to use the back fist. I don't think we've used the back fist yet, so I wanted to get it in there. The back fist is a lovely strike for triple warmer 17, like that. We're using these two knuckles, the bigger two knuckles in this case, but you must, and we'll go into this more in detail once I get the mitts out, because that's the actual striking of it, you must get the whip of the back fist. When we do a back fist, look at my fist. Look, it's not this. If I do that type of a back fist, you'll still hit the points, but you're like what I said with the normal fist, like that, or like the boxing glove, you're going to spread the power out all down through here. So it's still going to do a lot of damage. However, the technique that we're using here, we're assuming, I've said this already on one of the previous lessons, I would never do a double-handed block against Leigh, because I don't have to. There's no reason for me to ever waste both my arms on his block, because I know I can stop him with one hand. But if you're a small person, you've got a huge guy coming towards you, you put one hand up and you're on the floor. You're just not going to be able to block it if you don't have the training. So this is why we do train in double-handed blocks, for those situations. Okay, so we've got a double-handed block coming down here. This is your distance, from elbow to neck. That's your distance. you're not going to get a lot of power from that distance. Even if you're a fully trained martial art expert and you've been training in Fa Jing, even still, you're not going to get, the big swingy sort of power from this kind of distance, but you can still get enough power to knock someone out if you use the correct strike. If I just lamp Leigh, bang, like with that kind of pressure, with the whole fist, it's not concentrated. So I'd need a lot more force to go through. But if I concentrate the point right down to the tip of the knuckles with a whip of the wrist, that's what's going to get the point, strike straight in there. So that's what I was saying here. When we strike with the wrist, it's loose. You see? It's not striking like this. It's coming out. Then the foot, well, the whole body, but I'll just explain it in the arm. The forearm is going to whip back and do that, you see? See how the fist starts to naturally close because of the tension in the forearms. You've just got a tiny controlling influence of tension in the forearms rather than like that, that's just totally floppy. You've got a little bit of structural integrity through the clenching of the muscles through here, but not too much. If you bring too much tension in, you're not going to shake on the end, you see? The whole idea is to get this looseness, but still close the fist. You can do a back palm, of course, depending on what you're striking. We do also have the same strike, but with the back palm. But for this particular point, there's the knuckles, flat. When you do that, of course, the knuckles stick up like this, like fence posts. So that's obviously going to make it dig in a little bit more. So that's why we close the fist. The key point to getting this right is don't think to yourself you have to close the fist, like as if you were doing a straight punch or a hook punch or something like that. It's not a closed fist. It's, that's sort of what the fist would look like on contact. So it's bent because it's whipping there. That's the contact point with those two knuckles there. And the fist is only very lightly closed, only closed enough to cause the knuckles to stand up. Doing that and clenching the fist doesn't give you any other benefit. Of course, when you're doing a straight punch, you do have to close the fist fully because you need to have structure and formality in the fist. Otherwise, if you're very loose, you could damage your wrist. Back fist, of course, there's no power coming down the forearm, so you're in no danger of damaging the wrist. The power is going laterally through the arm. And also, there's no force going through either, so you're very unlikely to damage anything. So this is what we need. When we do this strike, we're throwing the hook punch there, boom! That's what I'm doing. As I say, this might look a little bit awkward because I already feel a bit too close because I'm using both my arms kind of thing. Again, if it was a much bigger person, I'd probably be out here kind of thing. I'd have a bit more space to work with. So keep in mind this technique would be ideally used against someone taller. Like we said in the last lesson, and when I was saying, I wouldn't try to hit Leigh under here because it's too low for me to get in. I'd have to sit down on the floor to hit him. So, what we're doing with this one is just slamming like that with your knife edge straight into the crease of his elbow. You're aiming for lung 5, which is just in here on the inner side of the radial side of the arm, just in there, right at the crease of the arm. If you basically just aim at the elbow crease in a slight downward angle. So as that punch is coming into your jaw there, you see, I'm not coming from down, I'm not coming up, which is also a nice strike. That's going to get you heart 3, which is the underside in here. Straight in the middle, you're going to get pericardium 3, I think. But the one we're going for, to cause the effect on the body that we want, we're assuming our hands were already up. Of course, if your hands were down, your strike would naturally come more up. But we're assuming maybe, we've done something first, so we've got this downward force that we can work with. The hand's already up in guard, so you can come down. The other hand is just in a pung shape, like this, just protecting you. That's the one stopping you getting hit. This one, boom, is taking all the force out of his arm, okay? Now, as I say, normally this would be a little bit more spaced because, like, if for example, Leigh did that double bang, see, that looks more comfortable because I've got a much longer arm, you see? So it fits better. And that's the sort of situation we'd be looking at. Bang. So knife edge into heart, lung 5, and your pung shape just covering. Of course, that's going to probably get a pericardium 6 and egg 1 shot as well. But primarily that's covering, this is just attacking.
That gives you the leverage advantage as well and kinks the brainstem.
Yeah.
Because that happens. And look what I've done. Exactly. There it is. Go on in.
Yeah.
There it is.
It's like a little map.
Absolutely. Take your
You
pick.
whack him on there. That's what I was saying before about you don't want to. If I was coming up under here, it's not going to have the same effect. You see, but boom, it's going to jerk his neck forward, boom, and boom. That's where we're coming straight in there. As soon as you've hit that, boom, boom, you can come straight back with something a little bit more substantial. You see, so big guy, you don't want to go bang and come straight in with something substantial because he's probably already throwing a second punch, you see. So you need something that's quick. As soon as you touch that arm, bah, you've got to get that back fist. It'll at least weaken him in some way, right? Boom! As soon as you've done that though, now he's got that little weakened state, you've already damaged the area. Now look. Oh, look at that.
Perfect.
Oh. About to say something rude then, but
Keep it clean.
yeah, okay.
We're just talking about death point striking here, none of that sex business.
But look how beautifully that fits. See, there's the recoil off that. I'll go into the body mechanic of the striking when I do the mitts. I just want to show the actual techniques at the moment. You've got your opening, your body whips out, but watch, it whips back. You see? To create that snap on the end. I'm not just following through. Because if I follow through, as I've said, from here, if I just follow through, I'm not going to get that much power. So better, boom, to get that recoil power. I'll show that on the mitt later. That's going to, and then that recoil of your left strike also coils your right palm to really tuck it back and get a lot of force coming through. Boom, straight in there. So as I said, very difficult to get a standard classic straight punch or hook punch or something to these points as an initial attack. But as a follow-up attack, see here, I wouldn't hit it. You see, I'd be hitting straight through. That wouldn't be I'd much rather punch him in the neck, for example, from that position. But boom, I've turned his head, whack! That's going to come straight through and into there. Slightly spiraling upwards, like this, into the point, and into there like that. Okay, I don't think we need to cover too much more about that, so it's just boom, 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 like that. And you're out of the way, you're keeping your distance, because we're assuming, again, bigger guy with this particular application. Bang, so I've kept my distance out here, whack, and I'm not going to go like this, for example, you see. And not only do you want to keep your distance from him because he's a bigger guy, but you will get maximum power in your punch if you stay here where you are, you see. You'll get less power if you're here. So bang, whack, bah, like that. Don't worry about this hand. I mean, this hand's covering just in case it flicks up into your face or something. But you're too close to this for it to do anything, to do any damage. From here, bang, realistically, he's not going to be able to do much with that. You do still bring this back to cover your face, because maybe just up into your eyes, or he could claw you or something. If you've missed, you know, you can miss. In a real fight, you will, in fact, miss. So you missed. You just hit him on the jaw, on the ear or something. So you just pissed him off. So, bang, I don't want to come straight through here because this may just come straight over and get me. So, bang, I've missed that one. Boom! I'm still just covering my face, just in case he tries to come through there. But hopefully, chances are that will stop him from coming through. Okay. Right. Last one. Dealing with a straight punch. Okay, so he's coming through with a right straight punch. I'm literally just covering it there. I'm covering on the upper part of the forearm, either elbow or forearm, but not so much down here on the wrist. Simply because of the direction of strike that we're coming through, this gives us much more chance of him folding and coming with an elbow. Not that a guy in the street or something like that usually knows how to fold. That's a more experienced martial art technique. However, always assume worst case scenario. So never train yourself to do something that, oh, but he wouldn't know any better, so I can use that technique. That's just bad poise. It's okay to block the outside of the wrist. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people say never block the outside of the wrist. Personally, I don't agree with that. However, in this particular case, because I am doing a lateral block, then I would advocate not blocking the wrist. However, if I'm going straight into his neck or into his eyes, then it doesn't matter. Because if I block across, he can fold and hit me with the elbow, or fold and back fist, or fold and punch. He can do whatever he wants. But if I block his wrist in a forward block, doesn't matter if he folds, because I'm already covering him and I've got my fingers in his neck. It's the seal effect.
Flap, 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 flap. It's not quite what the classics meant when they said shake like a sparrow.
Shake like a walrus.
Exactly.
Okay, what are we doing here? Oh, yes. This is what we're getting with this one. Like that. So we're bringing him in to us. Same thing, we're evading, we're getting out of the way. Like that. You see? It's got to be one movement. Again, it's not, and then attack. Just do it for a second. Bang. As the left hand's attacking, see how you'll actually, ideally, you'll get a double slip on his arm. If the arm's there, I'm going to hit his arm there. This is going to come straight up on the top of my own arm, like that. See how I get a little slip there on his arm? That's not part of the technique. You don't need that. It's just showing how close the hands are together. If I go, now I'm not going to get a slip, you see? So they should be that close that you'll probably skim past. But as I say, this is not a technique where we're causing an impact. I'm not trying to cause an impact. I'm not trying to cause...
One point gives you a shock.
I'm not trying to give a forward force on that arm and bump into his arm, because of course that's going to create forward force. That's not going to create a backward force when I come back. So I need this hand to be tucking through and in, you see? Like this. For your Tai Chi people out there, this is done in Yang Ching Fu's form from High Pat on Horse. Classically done. Watch. Just before we go into the first set of kicks. In Yang Wu Chan's form, it's done as well from the High Pat on Horse, although it's not done in exactly the same way. It's just there in Yang Wu Chan's form, because in Yang Wu Chan's form we cut out and we drop down into the sitting duck posture. But yeah, there's a classic move from the Yang Ching Fu's form. That's what we're looking at, like that. Okay. From there, boom, same thing. What we just did, punch straight in the back. So even if you don't get maximum velocity on that first one, you're going to definitely come bang. And they've got to follow along. You see, he throws out. You see, boom, boom, straight one after the other. Don't hang around, because you don't want to assume that he's not standing. Crack there. Okay, so just a little bit more about this technique. Same thing we've done before. V-step it, get out of the way. Nothing new there. Block on the upper forearm or elbow, somewhere around this region. But it's not up the arm. See that effect it does on the body? As he punches, it's into the body. It's coming down, drawing him onto me. Primarily, the main thing I want from this one, it's naturally going to be a little bit back, but the main thing I want is lateral power, to turn his body into the punch. I don't want to shove him back. I don't want to pull him forward. Pulling him forward is okay. There will be a little bit of pulling forward. But it's that lateral effect that is the primary thing that I want, to turn his body and chop that. This is the pisiform bone, again, going straight into that same point, back like that. I had one of my students hit me there a few years back. He hit me about that hard, literally. Just that hard, just a oops sort of a shot. No impact at all. I couldn't eat for 2 days, because it just got exactly on the point. And that's what I was talking about with reference to when you get a point exactly. If he'd been just a little bit off centre, it wouldn't have done much, because there was no power in the strike. But because it was exactly on triple heater 17, just that tiny little nudge, and I was having to drink smoothies, because I couldn't actually move my jaw.
There is some evidence to back up the acupuncture or traditional Chinese medicine effect that it causes emotional disturbance, this point. There is some evidence from the Western neurology as well that it causes emotional disturbance and sexual stimulation as well from striking it, although we're not making people get sexy by hitting it this hard. But I got a Scottish student who's been a martial artist all his life and a soldier. You know, he's a robust man, he's a tough man, he's a proud Scotsman. And when we were doing a point striking class, we were showing this point and everything else and did a few techniques for it. And when he was on the bus on the way home, he came in the week later, and when he was on the bus on the way home, he got really sad on the bus and started to go to cry, and he didn't know why. And he hasn't cried for 30 years because he's a double-hard Scots martial artist. So, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, that's very interesting, because that's not just the the damaging side of things. That's with regard to the healing acupuncture, when people use certain points to cause certain effects in the body and all of this kind of stuff. So Western medicine is catching up with most of. There are certain things from China that not so good.
Yes, exactly.
So
there's certain things about Western medicine that we drop.
Exactly.
You know, we used to bleed people with leeches to get rid of the bad humours. We dropped that a while back.
Okay, so back to this one. Blocking it across, boom, and coming across into there. The way we're getting the power for that one, we're turning into it. So that's why it's going to be one movement. So if I turn in here, what's my next movement going to be? It's going to be forward, you see, so that's not going to work. So that's why, you see, it's got to be on the one turn. The turn that is the block has to be the strike. So it's actually at the same time. Well, I mean, almost at the same time. It's not technically, because naturally that's going to be like that, just before. What? And then the waist, I'll just do that very slowly so you can see what the waist is doing. Turning to my right, and then the waist is just going to go click, click. Same I was explaining about the back fist, you're getting that snap back. So the waist is coming in, you see? See, there's that opening, like that. So I'm not getting, block and pumping it out this way. I'm getting a chop, a little cut into the movement.
When your dad used to talk about putting adverse energy into points, in the old martial arts magazines, people used to say, no, nonsense, you can't do magic, and such like. It's Newton's second law. The second law. Every action is an opposite, equal and opposite reaction. So because the action is doing this, the equal and opposite reaction is the shock wave that goes into the body, or the energy goes into the body, or the adverse energy goes into the body, which also translates to chi as being not magic, but as being force and energy and electricity. Anyway, sorry. That really used to anger me because it was pretty obvious when I was reading things. Magic, it's not, it's physics. Physics is what we're doing.
You don't understand something, it's magic.
Yeah, exactly. No. You just don't understand physics or how the world actually works.
Okay, so that's the final technique. Bang. So it's a little open and close. Oh, and then the final punch is just a normal punch. We've covered that already several times, so no need to go over that. You're just going to sink your weight further down into that left leg, cover that right arm, boom, and bring that punch straight into there. So you're getting that like that. Just covering that on there. Notice how I actually, when I covered that arm, I actually pulled it in a little bit. So there, he's probably, if I've actually hit him, I've probably done he's moved in some way. Of course, when you're training with your partner, you're not physically hitting him, so we try to simulate kind of, okay, yeah, he probably would have moved a bit that way, but you can never simulate exactly. Keep in mind, the way that we strike in dim mak doesn't have as much effect, like that one we did it before, this one knuckle behind the jaw. Because I'm doing boom, that kind of a strike, rather than boom, this kind of a strike, it's going to tend to just turn the head a little. Whereas this, that'll sort of spin him round, and then you have to hit something else, which is okay as well. But okay, so from there, like that, I'm actually going to go boom, and catch that arm. So if he is kind of travelling that way, I'm sort of almost bringing him back onto it. So there's a little bit of a pulling him towards that strike and coming through there like that.
Look at that one. That's a beauty. That's massive. Look at that. That's proper. Yeah. That's a beautiful hematoma.
Yeah.
No, good work.
Alright, so first punch, the hook. What do we call that? A hook tiger paw punch?
Tiger paw.
Tiger paw. There we go. Clip around the back. So as I said, it's a one knuckler. Like that in the back. So where you've got to start out with this one don't start classically with the mitt in front of you, because obviously you're going to step to here and then you're going to hit the mitt in the side of it. So you've got to start with the mitt actually facing the mitt hole, like that. So, because that's representing that grave in there. So I need to step, you see that's going to give me the right angle. Because obviously the mitt is not a clear representation of what we're hitting, just so long as the angle is right, that's all that matters. Okay, so we're there like that. We need to whip it out. Probably a good idea with this one actually is to practice the punch first before trying to put in the step and punch. So maybe just hold it just at a fraction of an angle, not so much of a big angle, because we're effectively staying here, in the, not taking a step. So what we're going to get here is still get that whip, you see, that circle coming around and in. What you need to do here, we don't want, you see, that is a good punch, but that's my whole hand hitting. That's what I'd use to other areas of the body. But we need to get it, really dig it onto that knuckle, like that. You'll notice that because I'm using a very small surface area, like I've explained with the finger strikes and so on, you're not going to move the mitt like this. If you use a much heavier weapon, you're going to move the mitt a lot more. But when you're going, you see you're whipping it back to there. You must finish this strike like as if you're going to stick your fingers in his neck afterwards. So it's got to be from there. So literally just hold it at your own head height, just so that if his fingers are facing me, that's sort of where you would want to be doing the strike from, assuming you're not doing the step. So you're just swinging out, clip, like that. Try to get that. See that little dig on the end? Up like that. So it's not just going flat into here, you see? It's not just coming flat like this, it's going, it's twisting, spiraling to palm up, not quite to palm up, but in that direction, like that. That's what we're looking to hit. Okay, so from there, that's what we're looking at. Okay? Put your hand in front of the mitt, so there must be no element of that, because now you're just swinging. You're not going to hit him with that, because he's already going to be upon you before you get that punch in. So you must get the mitt to strike here. It should be the same kind of thing like as if you're doing a jab, you see, like that. But just with a little bit of a curve to it. The curve should be only deep enough to create the correct angle. So I can bring it around here, you see. That's a much bigger curve. That's a curve to create power. We're not using a curve to create power, we're using a curve to create the angle. So of course, as I said, a bigger movement like that will give you more power, but it will take more time as well. So you from there, just, see I'm just cutting past, like that, to get that angle right. The other hand's just covering my head, bang, through there.
If you look at the memory foam bit, look, you can see where your one knuckle is dug in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's cool, eh? I noticed that the other night. Bang! It's like, one knuckle, excellent.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, mine don't do that. Lee's got new fancy mitts, high tech.
Proper.
Which is unusual for Leigh.
I know, yeah, I'm usually low tech, but when I phoned Blitz up, the guy sold them to me. He's like, look, couple of quid extra, much better pad. So I bought them. Yeah. There we go.
Because they are.
Because they don't make the real hard ones that break your fingers anymore, which are the ones I wanted.
Yeah.
Because modern martial art, no.
I'm naturally taking the step there, because I know that's what I'm doing. I'll try to do it without taking the step. Yeah, like that. So if you've never done it before, it will probably be easier to do it without the step, but if you've done it 100 times, for me, I'm actually having to restrict myself, because in my mind, when I'm doing that punch, I'm evading, so my feet are automatically stepping to the side slightly. So by all means, do it however you feel comfortable. If you're a trained martial artist and you can instinctively know, you've got to take a step there, by all means take the step. But this is for people who haven't done a lot of training, in which case you might find trying to step and punch all at the same time a little bit too confusing for the coordination of it. So try it just like that, just whip your waist, click. And of course you can just do that to start with. Just a simple, just a throw, like that. Just change your weight, open your waist, like that, you see? That's just going through, that's not using any fire jing, you see? But that's still going to clip him. But on the end of that strike, I'm still doing that. My wrist is still contacting and going like this. See, it's not just going, see now, same strike, but my hand is hitting the mitt like that. I want it to hit the mitt like that. It's got to turn inwards upon the contact. That's going from a yang hand into a yin shaped hand. So it's a yang coming through with the natural wave of the body and then click back to yin. So even if you're doing a swing through motion like that, see where my wrist finished? Indicating it's come through. So that's going to push that in and not just glance it by. Okay, so that's how you're going to start off. Then start going bang and bring your fingers back, just to show that you're pulling that waist back. Keep in mind, I'm not going to go too much into this because the Fa Jing motion I've already covered in the other strikes. It's the same body mechanics. The waist opens, the waist snaps closed, and there's the contact. So I'm not going to go too much into that because otherwise I'm just repeating myself for the same thing over and over. The difference with this strike, so have a look at the previous lessons, the ones that do some kind of a punch which looks similar to this one, and have a look at that. And just apply that different weapon on the end. The body mechanics of the punch are the same, it's just the weapon on the end of the movement which is different. It's creating that inward. The big difference with this strike compared to what we've done before is having to take a step as you punch. So when we have to take a step as I punch, now we've got to, again, angle it a little bit further around. So, into there like that, see? This kind of thing. So just like that. So you shouldn't be able to see this. If you can't see the face of the mitt, that should be roughly the right angle. And obviously the amount you step, just so long as you are stepping, you can't give yourself an exact amount because the amount will depend on the person charging in at you. So the two-person exercise is the training for the distancing and the timing and that kind of thing. So long as you're physically stepping and punching, that's all that matters. It doesn't really matter how far you step. I'm just trying to put up my head high. Okay, so from there, boom, this is what we want to look at. From there, one move. You see? You can use that same punch, of course. I won't go into the punch, but you can use that same punch as a straight punch in a, as I was saying before, in a sort of less serious situation, or when it comes to the swing, you can use the same technique, that nice evasion technique, but just smack, just a punch in the jaw. So rather than really getting it right in there, you're just coming straight into here. Equally, depending on how far he came in, now assuming he is much bigger and taller than you, this probably wouldn't happen, but, but because I've got a longer arm, so it means Leigh has to come in closer to hit me, and I've evaded out, I might even be able to go straight in with the straight punch, depending on the angle. That's all going to vary. But yeah, obviously both are valid punches. But as I say, if you're assuming a bigger person, you're probably more likely to hit the point this way than trying to get in behind it like that. Okay, the other strike we did was, the back fist. So I'm not going to cover the straight punches because we've already covered those previously. They're the same punches as what we've already done. So I'm just going to cover the back fist and the knife edge. So with this one, when you first start learning, of course, like anything, give yourself a bit more space to learn the body mechanics and then shrink it down. But keep in mind you're aiming to get the punch to about here. Very, very close range, like that. Because otherwise you wouldn't have used it. If you had more distance, you would have come in with something more powerful. But of course you can learn down here. So, the main thing is, when I do this, if I just swing my arm like that, see there's no pullback, I'm going to feel the pressure then all across the knuckles. Or I can go like that. Now that's just me pushing my hand out to try to get it on the top of the knuckles. What I want to do is whip there. Now with this one, you're going to do it softly first. I mean, all of them you do softly first. It's the better way to understand the body mechanics rather than going straight in with lots of power. Particularly if you have trained in something before, if you go full power straight away, chances are you'll do the thing that you're used to doing. So let's say, for example, you're used to doing like a big heavy back fist follow through like that. If you start thinking, I want to hit this as hard as I can, you'll automatically, instinctively go to that thing you've already done hundreds of times. But if you just go softly, there's nothing forcing me to want to hit it. Because I'm just, that's cool, just getting some impact, just getting the technique right. Now I can feel the top two knuckles touching the mitt. Like that.
And there's your memory from an impact.
There we go.
There we are. The wonders of modern technology.
Yeah. Okay, so what we got with this one, flat angle with the pad, like that. Swing through, whip back. See the body. Body's going to go 1, 2, 3. So on the second turn, see what happens to the wrist. I'm just exaggerating the looseness of this. See, when the hand goes like that, that's the contact. Now, of course, you've got to hold some structural integrity in there so you don't dislocate your shoulder or your wrist or something. So you've got to keep it all controlled, but that is effectively the movement that we will be applying. So, first things first, just do it from the shoulder. Just, you see, just that nice flick, like that. Then, see how my body is now starting to move into it. So I've started just with the hand, just getting that feeling of it's the recoil, it's the pulling back, which actually causes the fist to go forward, which is the same as all the other Fa Jing strikes we've done, but this is actually I should have actually done this in lesson 1 really, because this back fist is one of the easiest strikes to understand the principle of Fa Jing. Not so much the explosivity of Fa Jing, but the body mechanics of the fact that the recoil creates the power. So when we do a straight punch, it's a little bit more difficult to understand that when the hip pulls back, it actually causes the fist to go forward, because most people have too much tension in the body, and so when the hip pulls back, the hand comes back, so they don't get that Fa Jing whip happening. Whereas with the back fist, it's easy to understand that, oh yeah, it's slapping it. So you, just very, very softly, even with an open palm, before you even start closing the fist, just hold your hand there, like that. You get that slap, rather than just that, pushing through, you get that slap. There's not power in it yet, but you can understand the principle. Then you just lightly close the fist, so you get the correct, see the sound changes, because I'm hitting with a different part of the hand, like that. But it's that, it's the pull back. See that? Then, of course, that principle of throw out and whip back, you've got to move from here. You push up from the legs, the hip turns, the waist turns, everything turns in a spiral, and then this pulls back the other way. Particularly the waist is the thing that happens. But when we finish here, we don't finish over here. You see, we want to go and centre back, because of course that's going to then come, as I showed in the application, we go boom and then turn back in. So we're not aiming to do a Fa Jing strike and finish over here. Unless of course someone runs at you from that angle, then you might do that and change your angle. Okay, so once you've done that several times, keep it big to start with, nice and loose, nice and flowing, then bring it in a little bit closer. This is where the actual strike happens from. No good doing it from back here, but you can practice. Okay, so from about, well, like I said, from roughly elbow to jaw is where you want to be striking from, you see. So if you give yourself roughly that sort of distance from here, so maybe 1.5 feet or something like that, like there to there. From there, you've got to get the whole body now coming down. See that? This is what we want to get. The shock going into the body, and you put that, see how the foot's even kicking out? That's creating a squeeze in the legs, squeezing the power of the hips. So when the hips turn, they don't just, like, the legs don't want to be just all dancy on the bottom. If your legs aren't squeezing into the ground, then when your hip turns, some of your power will go out this way. We want the power to be squeezed up, every part of our body, squeezing from the legs, twisting up through the waist and elaborating and coming out of the hand. Or the elbow or the head or the shoulder, whichever part you're hitting with. But that's the idea, we squeeze it up. So you'll notice the legs are not like this, for example. You see, they're not floppy. They're squeezing. They're closing the quad a little bit. See, I'm squeezing in like this. This is all, I'm just exaggerating this. But as I sink down into the front leg, and that rear leg might even twist out. But this is not something that should be done as a physical thing. I shouldn't be thinking like, push the heel out. When I do that move, I don't think to myself, push my heel out on target. I've never in my life learnt the timing of when to push my heel out. Simply do the far jing. If I want to do that strike and nothing's happening in the feet, don't do anything in the feet. Otherwise, that's just a physical movement. That's going to take power away from your movement. But once you start really getting that snap in there working nicely, once your waist starts whipping, you'll feel like, I just need to ground myself a bit more. And so your feet will naturally start to grip the ground. Just a side note there, people practicing Tai Chi or Bagua, or I assume this would be the same for other styles of martial art as well. There are certain things we do in our practice which can't be taught. They have to be learnt from within. So some things I can show you, but other things I'll be in classes and I'll be teaching people, timing, place the heel, do this, drag the foot at this time, all the technicalities of things I can teach someone. But then someone will say, your toes. Your toes were like just gripping on the floor a little bit there. And I was like, yeah, but I can't teach you that because I never learnt it. So you shouldn't have to learn it either. No one ever told me, while you're doing this movement, you should go like this and squeeze the floor and all these changing and giving, receiving, issue, receiving from the legs. No one ever told me how to do it. But because I knew I needed to get that power, my legs and feet started to just, what's that happening in my legs? But I remember watching my dad do it for the first time, and back when I was very young, I was like, what's that? Started trying to emulate him, and it made my whole form feel weaker, because it was a physical thing detaching from the rest of the body. It wasn't connected. But once I forgot about it. I was like, forget about that. I'm just going to keep practicing my forms and what I'm doing. And then one day I was just doing it, but because my waist and torso started doing the right things, my feet just one day went and started, it's come. It's come naturally throughout my training, rather than physically getting on. That doesn't mean you go to one class and then everything comes there. You've got to learn a lot of stuff physically from your teacher to allow that to happen.
The classics say the feet follow the hands. So very basically you can see the feet are following the hands. But that's the true interpretation of the feet following the hands from the classics. And that's recently what I've been saying to my students. If you don't train when we're not together, I've either got to teach you the same lesson forever, or you've got to catch up with what you've learned. And you can only catch up with what you've learned by training in repetition. There's no substitute.
I just had, I've had a few students actually recently ask me with reference to their form practice, and this again would apply to any style of martial art that you're practicing. In this case it was Tai Chi. They'd been learning the Yang Chan's form, and they'd just added on some advancements, some little twists of the waist or whatever they'd been working on. And we were coming up to the end of the form at that level. And so they said, so we're nearly to the end of this. What comes next? What do I learn next? So we go back to the start, I assume, and add something next to it. I said, what comes next is that you practice it like that for the next 2 years. Then we add something more. Because if you add something physical too soon, once you add something, you lose what you just learned. Unless you learn it, practice it until it becomes part of you. You internalize it. It's become naturally. Like what I was just saying when I was doing that punch there. I said, we're going to do this without the steps to make it easier, and then I stepped. Because that's what my body does. Because I know that in that application, my body's moving out of the way. So I have to really consciously think, don't step. Whereas if, for example, I had only practiced that punch 2 or 3 times, and then I said, okay, add the step in, I'd add the step, do that 2 or 3 times, then I'd say add the block, and I might leave the step out, or something. So yeah, you've got to wait till things internalize. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're getting there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the squeezing of the legs. So I don't know if I've gone over that in other strikes, so I'll just say a little bit about it here. But just as you get that opening of the waist, there, the whole leg closes and power is squeezed out. Like I said, I'm not actually, this is more of a dim mak lesson, it's not so much a Fa Jing lesson. I will be putting out some Fa Jing lessons soon, so I'm not covering it in too much detail. I'll put out some Fa Jing lessons separately, because they're a whole nother separate thing on their own. I can't really teach the Fa Jing and the dim mak all within one lesson. But just look at it. That's the main thing you want to do here, is just look at the movement. Watch it, watch where the body's going. That's what I do when I'm watching my father do it, and constantly trying to improve myself. I just watch him. I don't look at, oh, where's his hip turning first, and then the waist goes, and I don't look at any of the details. I just watch the aura of it, the overall energy of that particular movement. Okay.
Or as your dad used to say, is don't look at an elephant with a microscope. Look at an elephant. If you look at it with a microscope, all you see is a lot of grey. Anyway, sorry, man.
I love that saying.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Superb.
Okay, next strike. What are we doing?
Yeah,
let's put it on that. So I'm coming out here, cut.
Should we change sides so we can see?
Okay, with you.
Good.
Oh, the t-shirt, of course, courtesy of James
Makawara.
Makawara.
I call him James Makawara. James Makawara. He's for hitting and he's from Japan. Yamakawa. Makawara works.
He's
for me,
Japanese. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. He's one of our instructors in Maryland, in America. Hey, that's America, USA. Gift certificate. Anyway, this t-shirt was given to me by him, so thank you very much, James. This is the tie-dye WTBA logo with written in Japanese, "Shut up and train."
Shut up and train.
Alright, this one we're cutting out. Okay? So again, don't worry about, well, I mean you can later on, but for now we're just going to focus on the strike just to get this done. So just position yourself where it's going to be a comfortable strike. Make sure the main thing here is, see that? That's going this way. We don't want that. We need it to come back. So just hold the mitt flat, but you cut it backwards. With this strike, I think I've explained a few times previously, for example, when we're doing the straight punch, you mustn't skim the mitt. You must get it to go straight through, or like with the hammer fists and the other ones we've done. Whereas this strike, the mitt, there's no notch on the mitt. There's no thing like this on the mitt. We need to get, in fact, I think someone has invented those recently, little head mitts. You can put, I'm sure I saw it somewhere.
I saw a kid the other day with incredible Hulk hands. Did you see it?
Oh yeah, it'd be like that, but in the shape of a head. So you can hold the head there and get all these little points. Like a Bob training punch dummy, but it's just the head.
Yeah, I want one.
Yeah. So anyway, with that kind of a strike here, you see, it doesn't matter if you do get a little bit of a slip. In fact, you want slip, because that's showing, if I don't get slip, that means the power's going through the mitt, which means that the power here would be going that way. I don't want that. I want the power to come this way. So in fact, when you're working with a flat object, you actually want the power to slip slightly on the mitt. So put your little block in, cut it out like that, like that. Okay? So that's what we're getting with that one. Notice how, when we hit that one there, you're coming around and there's that little opening and closing. It's not just that. That's going to cause more movement of the mitt, of course, because it's pushing through, but it's not snapping into the mitt. Good analogy I heard recently. I can't remember how it was worded, but it was very nice. It was something to do with bullets and why in real life when you shoot someone they don't fall backwards like they do in the westerns. If I take something of a bullet size, that's a pretty big bullet, but like a, I don't know, sniper bullet or something, push Leigh with it, it'll push him backwards. But if I pushed Leigh there at, what, 600 miles an hour or whatever a bullet travels at, he'll just stay there. Because the bullet will just go through him. It'll cause a lot more damage, but his body won't move. That's what we want to look at when we're punching someone. I've already covered this, but I just thought that was a nice analogy. So the bullet, okay, it's a very small thing, so of course a fist is always going to cause a bit more movement, but even still, if you took like a, I don't know, a big spear or something of a thicker amount, if you did it slowly, it will still push them backwards. Even like a large spear, like a big throwing spear or something, if I ran Leigh from here and stuck, even if I stuck it through him, it would still move him backwards as well as piercing his body and going through him. But if I shot it out of a catapult, it would go straight through him and it would cause less movement because it's moving faster. So the faster the velocity of your strike, the less movement you're going to create on your target. Simply because the velocity, it's a little bit different with a punch of course, because you're never going to get the velocity to actually pierce the body and go through him like a Terminator. However, when we strike, we impact for the smallest amount of time possible, causing a far greater shock effect on the body than staying in contact with the thing that we're hitting. Okay, what was I saying? So when we're hitting this one here, we're chopping it out like that, turning right, left, right. Or to right, left is the main strike, and then the other one's just kind of centering back in. So, like that. See? So keep in mind you've blocked there, and you've struck out. From there, boom, you're just coming straight through with a classic punch, which we've already covered, so I'm not going to bother covering that. I think that's it for that lesson. Yeah. So that's the end of Triple Heater 17. Thank you, Leigh. Thank you, camera.
Thank you, camera.
Next lesson is Gallbladder 20, so we'll be covering up. We'll be covering his face.
Yeah, it's covering my face.
That's it in the back there. Thank you very much. We'll see you when I get the next one edited.